Hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. Tonight, I'm going to be reviewing season one of The Cable Girls. This is a show that's on Netflix right now. Matter of fact, my wife actually introduced me to this show, and I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. But I just wanted to share with you guys that I did enjoy this show, and I can't wait to dive into this. So let's go on ahead. Let's get started. I'm excited to be able to talk about the very first season of The Cable Girls. This is also going to be a non-spoiler review in case anybody wants to go ahead and check it out later on. But for further ado, let's get on with the show. And welcome to the show, guys. So tonight I am going to be reviewing season one of The Cable Girls, like I said. And I didn't expect to be honest with you, I didn't expect to actually like this going into it. I didn't, but I here's the thing though, I do like history. I do like things within that realm and stuff like that. But Cable Girls is basically a charming drama that manages to capture the essence of the 1920s, uh, and also the society incredibly well. And despite the questionable choices of modern music and cliffhangers and endings to the four women at the uh, whole entire show, the story is well written and also too is creative enough to balance the series out in a subdued way with a good mix of romance, drama, and humor thrown into a female empowering narrative. Cable Girls is one incredible Spanish series to get invested in and well worth checking out. And there's a lot going into this. Like for instance, you actually have the other women introduced early on, and they do a good job depicting different parts of the 1920s culture and their storylines, and interesting and well written. Carletta, who is played by Anna Fernandez, struggles for much of the season with her father's disapproval in her working at the telephone company and tries to get her to quit because at that time, if you have money or anything like that at that time, basically it was frowned upon for women to work. And so therefore the father, because he's rich, he was trying to get his daughter to quit working. So that's also something that I thought that they took very care of within this whole entire season, though, too, describing these girls and who they are and things like that. But the main character herself, though, okay. So I just want to give you a little bit more of a background. So this show is actually set in Madrid during the Roaring '20s. Cable Girls is an absorbing Spanish period drama that balances, like I said, the romance, the humor, the tension, and has great effect. Although the first season mainly focuses on Alba, player known as Lydia under a new alias, as the series grows and the plot thickens, man. Like there's a shared focus between the four women at the center of the story that helps the balance in the first season out. The story begins with Alba, played by Blanca Suarez, who finds her life changed forever when she's wrongfully accused of a double murder and corrupt policeman offers to her matter of fact, they actually let her go in exchange for her stealing money from the local telephone exchange. Alba takes on a new persona, and she calls herself Lydia. And with it, the responsibilities of working as a cable girl alongside a group of women who share the limelight more and more as the series progresses. As Lydia juggles her own feelings towards the girls she works with and interests, Carlo, played by Martino Reves, has a lot of the story revolves around her and foreign loyalty as she desperately struggles to figure out a way to pay off the corrupt policeman and keeping her job and friends intact. But I like how we go into the past between the two of them. And you're not quite sure where this is going to head or anything like that either. You see basically a young Lydia or Alba chasing after a train. Then you have Carlos, who's actually telling her, "Hurry up, hurry up, get on the train." They get on the train, and they said, "So what are you going to do with your life?" And she's like, "I don't know." And so it's basically has this little romance between them whenever they're teenagers. Then when they're grown adults, that's when it blossoms into even more. And you get to definitely tell that basically Carlos misses Alba, and he knows that there's something different with this woman named Lydia. And even though Alba and Lydia is the same person, but because of the fact that she's going on a different alias, because of the fact with the double murder that she was framed for and everything, he's not 100% sure if that's actually Alba or Lydia, if Alba is actually Lydia. But he knows that there's something there, and there's something that's reminiscing about that to the point where he actually has a little bit of a nostalgia built up and trying to remember things from his past. And even though he's married and things like that too, there's also that spark between Alba and him that's still there to this day. And the love between them two is just very, very well written. The only thing I would have to say whenever you look into this, think of this as like a no more, basically. But whenever something dramatic happens, right? It goes into this whole entire music. And he's like, Lydia, let me tell you what let me tell you how I feel. I love you, my but here's the thing, I also love my wife. Then the dramatic music also happens. So it has that no more kind of feel to it. It took me out of it a little bit, but once I started getting into it, it got to be kind of like normalization in a sense because you know what you're watching, you know what you're getting. But I just thought it was kind of funny seeing it the first time because it kind of threw me off a little bit because I didn't expect it. It's like, Lydia, I remember the very first time that I seen you, and you were chasing after the train. And as you were chasing after the train, I wasn't sure if you were going to get on that train, but you, but you made it. And now I never thought I would actually find you here in this telephone company. And so it has that kind of sense to it. And it is a Spanish soap opera kind of feel to it. That's also something I wanted to bring up too. It does have like a little bit of a Spanish soap opera kind of feel to it. But I just thought that that part with Carlos and her was very funny in a sense because if you're not paying attention to the music and stuff like that, whenever something dramatic happens and stuff, I just found it funny at first, but then you find out that you actually get sucked into this whole entire story, so therefore you don't really care that much as you're going into it. It may annoy you a little bit in the first season and stuff like that, but once you get in that whole entire series, I think you're gonna like it. But yeah, this and then like I said, and then you also have the other women who are introduced early on, and they do a good job. Different parts of the 1920s culture and their storylines are interesting as well. You have Carletta, who was actually played by Anna Fernandez, like I said. And I said this a little bit earlier, but she also struggles for much of the season with her father's disapproval because of the fact that she's rich and her father's rich. He's also against the fact that with her working. So during that time in the 1920s, it was frowned upon for women to work. This is actually the very first time that you actually see women in the workplace working and as telephone operators. And this is actually the first time that you actually see women being involved in the workplace. And because of the fact that she's rich, the father doesn't want her to be able to work. But yeah, and so experiencing employed Angeles, Maggie Seventos has a similar problem with her husband and Marga's played by Marga, which is also one of my other favorite characters. She's basically a quiet, timid type of shy girl, but I really like her and everything because I think she actually balances the girls out a little bit. But yeah, she's actually played by Nadia de Santiago. But yeah, it's a charming storyline involving love interest by Pablo. Pablo is one of my favorite characters on the show because he's a really down to earth person. You're actually rooting for him to get with her. And I like how this scene plays out, right? Where basically he's working in the telephone company and he's doing the finances, and then he winds up calling the operators. And he has his eyes on this girl, Margot. And it's like, look, I need to talk to operator number 7. And he says, I'm sorry, this is not operator number 7. This is number 6. She's sick today. And she doesn't want to talk to Pablo, not because she's not interested in him, because she is interested in him. It's just the fact that she's quiet, she's timid, she's keeping to herself. So, she doesn't know how to react when someone is actually into her. So whenever Pablo calls her up, he goes, yeah, I'm here to talk to operator number 6. She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, operator number 6 is not here today. This is operator number 7." So, I like how they play that narrative of that back and forth thing with them and to build out that chemistry. And I think they do a very good job of that. And matter of fact, Pablo is actually played by Nico Romero, and he has a good dose of humor thrown into the balance of the other storylines. All four of these people plot work humorously together, and for the most part, do well to drive the narrative forward. It's a little disappointing that the Cable Girl ends on such a cliffhanger, even ending though. Maybe many of these plot threads unresolved, but hopefully these are answered in the second season, which they are because I did binge all through this. But there's a surprising amount of accuracy used to depict the 1920s too, and everything from the costume design, the attitude of men and women of the era all feel realistically depicted and accurate for the time period. Unfortunately, Cable Girls slips up on the music choices that are responsible to say the least. Like I said, the music choices with the whole drama part and things like that, that kind of drowns it out a little bit. And then also too, then there's also this electronically charged kind of music with the scenic driven dance music in clubs and vocal heavy pop music during some of the moments completely destroy the intermission of the series in a sense. But you wind up, here's the thing, if you wind up ignoring those things, you're gonna enjoy the show. Because here's the thing, at first I'm like, okay, that's kind of different because this doesn't have the 1920s kind of beats as far as the music goes. But when you look at it and ignore that part of it, whenever they're adding the electronic dance culture kind of thing, popish kind of sound to it and things like that, you know, it may take you out of it, but if you ignore it, ignore it like I did, you wind up liking it and you just move on from it. But you know, let's see. Then you also have the heavy pop music during somber moments completely destroy the intermission. That's what I was talking about though too in my notes. But yeah, there are also that somber moments, like I said, that completely destroy the intermission of the series, and it's such a shame that as the actual content of the plot is generally very good. Speaking of audio, it's worth mentioning at this point that the English is dubbing for Cable Girls is. I have to say this, okay? They do have a dubs. If you're not into Spanish dialect or anything like that, reading subtitles or anything like that, they do have a dub feature right now on Netflix to where you can dub it, and that's how my wife and I watched it. But I pretty much didn't care if the voices matched up or anything like that. I was able to enjoy a simple plot without having to think about, oh, these voices are not matching up. This because you're so drawn into the culture, you're so drawn into the 1920s way of how they do things. Then you also are sucked into the plot. You're sucked into this life of Alba and slash Lydia. You're wondering if Lydia is actually going to get found out. And there's actually an episode where somebody else comes into the telephone company and goes, "Hey, look, I'm Lydia." And then so happens to be Carlos winds up covering for her and saying, "Hey, look, there's plenty of people with that name." So therefore, this is actually the real Lydia. The Lydia is actually an imposter. So therefore, Lydia, who's actually Alba, winds up keeping her job at the telephone company and things like that. But there's other things, other twists and turns within the series itself that keeps you very engaged to the point where you want to actually tune in for the next episode. And the authentic Spanish is far superior to watch with, and we do recommend you choose the way of watching it. You decide to get invested in the Empire of period drama. And like I said, I ended up doing it with the dubbing. You don't have to do the dubbing if you don't want to. You can do it with authentically with just reading the subtitles. But for me, I chose the dubbing because it's actually easier for me. Because subtitles in some things, in some TV series or movies, that is, it just moves a little too quick for me to the point where I have to pause it and I'm reading, and then I have to pause it again. Before you know it, an hour long show turns into an hour long show, and I don't have time for that. So dubbing for me works. But tell me what you guys think. Does dubbing work for you? That's what I want to know. Then you also have to go with this though too, and I have to say, I mean, this show is definitely the very first pilot definitely ranks up for me. I give it a maybe a 7.5 if I have to say for an opening, despite some of the music choices, despite some of the other stuff that happens with it. But Pablo is hands down one of my favorite characters on this thing because of the fact that he's just a sweet guy. He's just like honest guy, and he loves Margot, and Margot is this shy and timid small town girl, and that's something that I can say that people can relate to. And I just feel like most of the guys in this show is basically douchebags in a sense because you have a rich snob guy that's working that's actually part of Carlos's friend who gets introduced later on in the series and everything. But the show is well written, perfectly well. The balance of everything, the humor, the drama, and everything you want in a 1920s kind of setting. This show is definitely for you. If you're into history, if you're into women of the workforces, if you're into stuff like that, I strongly recommend it. but yeah, some small choices with the music I didn't really care for. The drama, the no more kind of thing where you had that whole entire series moment with Lydia and Carlos, and then you also had that funny moment. This is actually, like I said, the funny moment for me was with basically with Pablo and also his girlfriend. And I thought this was a great introduction into the workforces of the 1920s. I thought this set up everything for me to go ahead and check out the rest of the season. But I am not going into spoiler territory with this. I know I gave out maybe one little small spoiler here, but I want you guys to check this out for yourselves and tell me what you guys think here, because this is not me just reviewing the whole entire. I'm not reviewing the whole entire season. I'm just telling you what I think of season one overall, as far as an introduction, as far as it being said in a historical piece. I think that you guys will enjoy it. So, with that being said, that's going to be it as far as the show goes. I hope that you guys enjoy the show. Please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe below. And if you want to see more, just click in the box next to me whenever you guys get this thing finalized. But go on ahead, check this out. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. And always, until next time, guys, have a great and safe night. And we'll catch you guys later on the next one.